You're only a builder. What the hell do you know? Just build the damn thing to spec. LTL, FTS, etc. This is fairly long, so there's a TLDR at the end. But it's one of my favorite stories from my hometown. It was a long time ago, so the specifics probably aren't exact. But the overall story is as it happened. I grew up in a small community on an island off the coast of a thriving metropolitan area. It had ups and downs, but was generally a pretty quiet sort of life. The community had a fairly large immigration population from various European countries, and one of those was, well, let's call him John. John the Builder. He and his numerous brothers had all moved to the island together and started a construction company. John was a big, affable man, easygoing and always smiling. He spoke excellent English, but with a thick accent. Sometimes people assumed his accent meant his grasp on business was lacking, but usually not for long. Within a decade or so of moving there, John and his brothers were pretty much the only builders of note on the island, and anything bigger than a garden shed would go through them. Around that time, my granddad retired and moved to the island with my grandma. He contacted John to help him build his retirement house, and they bonded over their mutual appreciation of a really good concrete mix and pour. By then, John's family were good friends with ours too, so John and my granddad kept in touch regularly and would often get in involved discussions of building methods and the like. Some years later, the old couple running the main petrol station in town decided to sell up and retire, and the place was bought by Big Fuel Co. Big Fuel Co. decided that the quaint old station and garage was in dire need of a complete makeover and modernization, and drew up plans accordingly. After putting the work out for tender, they grudgingly accepted that with the cost of relocating a labor force from the mainland to the island for the work, John's construction firm was by far the most cost-effective. They weren't happy about it though, and made it clear that they thought John and his brothers were a bunch of rural cowboys who couldn't be trusted to nail two planks together. Still, the contracts were signed and the blueprints delivered to John, as well as the usual amenities. The new station was to have a high, artistically stylish roof over the fuel pumps, held up by two support pillars. You know the sort of thing. John read the plans, thought about the stiff sea breezes the location was subject to, and frowned. He took the blueprints around to my granddad and discussed them. Probably not entirely within the bounds of the contract, but John was concerned. The next day, John rang Big Fuel Co.'s contact and said, in his thick accent, "This roof isn't going to stand up. The support pillars' footing are too shallow, and the roof itself is too large for pillars of that size. Plus, you haven't factored in the strength of the winds we get there. Everything else is fine, but you need to redesign that roof." "Rubbish!" scoffed the Big Fuel Co. guy. "We had it designed by a very exclusive architect, and our engineers signed off on it. It's fine, you don't know what you're talking about." "Maybe," John said, "but I've been building here for 20 years. And I think you should go over the design again." "Don't be ridiculous. You're just trying to get the contract extended. We don't need to check the design. Now get building." Click. John, being a genuinely nice bloke, thought that maybe this was just one person being difficult, and also felt that this sort of thing should probably be in writing. Sat down and wrote a clear letter expressing his concerns about the fuel pump shelter, and sent it overnight to the Big Fuel Co. office on the mainland. The next day, he got a call from Big Fuel Co. office, from someone further up the ranks. "What the hell is this? Who do you think you are trying to tell our architects and engineers they don't know what they're doing? You're only a builder. What the hell do you know? Just build the damn thing." "Could you put that in writing, please?" asked John. This is the point at which a sensible manager would be given pause. When the contractor specifically asks for it in writing, you should probably ask why. "Fine," snarls the Big Fuel Co. guy, and faxes through a terse note that he'd read the letter and considered it mistaken, and to get on with the construction. John shrugged, carefully filed the note, and went ahead with the build. A little over a month later, the new station was finished, roof and all. On a pleasant, gusty day, perfect for sailing, the Big Fuel Co. bigwigs flew over to see the result. Standing there with John and a curious crowd of locals, they watched as the shiny new stylish roof danced and swayed in the wind in a manner decidedly unlikely to reassure anyone of thinking of refueling their car underneath it. "What the hell is this?" inquired the Big Fuel Co. boss. "Just what I tried to warn you about," replied John. "Bull crap. You screwed up the construction and now you're trying to pin it on us. We're not paying for this. You're going to need to tear it down at your expense and build it right." "It's built exactly to your blueprints," said John. "If you want it rebuilt, you'll have to pay for it. Preferably with a new design." "Not a chance. This is on you. And if you try to dodge responsibility for it, we'll sue." "Sounds good," said John. "See you in court." So the fuel station was courted off, and legal proceedings went ahead. I don't know much about them, but at some point I do know something like this happened. Judge: "Defense, you may call your first expert witness." John's lawyer: "Thank you, Your Honor. We'll call Professor OP's dad, internally recognized civil engineer, who chaired the report into the redacted bridge collapse, and was the head of engineering at Redacted University for 25 years. Big Fuel Co.'s legal team." John's lawyer: "Thank you for joining us, Professor. Would you please tell the court how you first learned of the project in question?" My granddad: "Of course. John first approached me with his concerns directly after receiving the blueprints. I agreed with his assessment, and I have drawn up a brief report on the problems of the roof design. The details and supporting calculations are in pages 4 through 16, but if you don't mind, I'll just read from the summary. I noted the following problems." Big Fuel Co.'s legal team: "Oh crap." With that, and the note John had, it didn't take long to be settled. Big Fuel Co. was on the hook for all of it, plus legal fees. They had to pay John to tear down the unstable roof and build a new one, designed by a different architect and checked by off-site engineers. Nevertheless, when John got the new plans, he rang Big Fuel Co. and said, "Hope you don't mind. I'm just gonna run these past the professor before we get started." Honestly, I don't necessarily blame the company for questioning his motives for wanting more money, because realistically, a lot of people do that. I just don't understand how they think they can sue him after all the warnings he tried to give them. Builder malicious compliance earns cash. Spurred on by John versus Big Fuel Co. Hey, we just read that. I have a story told to me about a 22-year-old by a builder friend. Mobile, English first language, blah blah. One of the things builders hate is an architect or a draftsman who assumes builders are thicker than the 2 short planks they've been told to nail together. My friend agrees to a contract to build an extension to a house in Wales, hilly Wales. The only problem is that the couple asking for the work has picked the worst pig-headed type of architect money can buy. He gets the plans and starts the build. But before long, he notices something odd about the drawing for the new extension and calls the architect to query it. The architect isn't having any of it, giving him the whole, "Just do your job, the plans are fine," without even letting my friend finish explaining the problem. Well, fine. Before long, the architect comes to the site at the owner's request. They're in on it, and walks into the main part of the house to see the problem. The doorway through to the extension is only 3 foot tall. My friend is in the extension, so he storms around to ask what the heck is going on, blaming the builder all the way. When he gets into the extension room, the doorway is in fact the regulation height, but the architect hadn't factored in the slope of the hill, and the fact that the adjoining room in the existing house, the floor is considerably higher than the floor of the extensions, due to the hill, and given the extension has an outside door. After my friend patiently explains how the plans were wrong, the architect agrees to pay for the builder to put it right. He haggles the architect up to £500, proceeds to take a sledgehammer and knock out the remaining parts of the door. It turns out that having been told to just do the work, he did it properly. Right-sized door, staircase, then put in an extra lintel and brick the top part of the doorway up. Made good so it wasn't obvious. Hid the detached stairs he'd ordered, and waited for the inevitable to happen. I really hope stories like these two, and honestly many others, will teach people that just because you're in a certain job does not define your intelligence. You can be a builder and a genius, or you can be an architect and an idiot. Want a child ticket? Sorry man, can't let you in. So here in the UK, a 15 rated film means that you have to be 15 to see the film. No exceptions. Back a few years ago, we had two ticket types at a cinema, adult and child. Since it's changed to incorporate a teen ticket, child was under 15, and adult was anything 15 and above. This guy comes in with his mates, back of the queue to get in, but can be heard throughout the foyer being all loud and obnoxious, and the generalization I found in my experience in the cinema is that if they're teens on their own and they're loud and obnoxious in the foyer, there's a high chance they'll be the same during the film and generally a nightmare in the screen. I start to notice some other people in the queue looking over at him and rolling their eyes. I get the pleasure of serving this guy. Comes up to me, still shouting over at his mates, who are getting served by some of my colleagues, and asks for a ticket to see this 15 rated film. Can't remember which. One of these low-budget crappy horrors that come out in their many sequels recently. Insidious or Sinister or Annabelle or whatever. He looks about 16, 17, but since he said a ticket, Work Script Autopilot takes over as I ask him how old he is so that I can sell him the correct ticket type. Him being the person he is, and probably since he's gotten away with it before to get the cheaper ticket price, said he was 14. The moment he said that, a massive grin washes over my face. Sorry mate, this film is a 15. Holding back my glee at not having to deal with his bullcrap for the next 2 hours. I can't let you in. No amount of begging and pleading would make me budge. So he asked to speak with the manager. Manager comes down, sides with me, and he's on his way. Day ruined. We need more people like you out there doing God's work. Nothing's worse than a damn movie talker. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And like usual, if you liked it and you're new around here, consider subscribing. And if you really liked it, maybe give it a thumbs up and a share. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.